Hi, welcome back to The Distressed Princess. I'm Rhonda. In today's episode, we're continuing with the Christmas crafting series with episode 4. And this is such a fun one, guys. This is one of my favorite crafting genres, vintage Christmas DIYs. So let's get started with the first one. This is a printable that I purchased off of Etsy for just a couple dollars, and it is a replica of the old Shiny Bright Ornament boxes. And I was so excited to do this because if you'll remember, back when I did a vintage Halloween / Christmas decor hunt at the antique stores, I saw someone using what I thought was real boxes to make these dioramas. Well, I've figured out now. I think this is what they did. They bought these off of Etsy and made them themselves. And so that's what I'm going to do today. Even though I did see something that maybe is similar, might not have been the same thing in the antique store, the printout I printed said for personal use only, for no commercial use. So don't try to print this one and sell it. I printed mine on cardstock paper. It takes 2 sheets, one for the top part and one for the bottom part of the box. And the instructions are printed right on there. And all it is folding and cutting. And I used Scotch tape to secure the corner flaps in place. But I got excited. Before I assembled the box, I really should have cut the tree out first. So I go back in and cut the tree out, but it would have been a lot simpler. I mean, I could have just ran along the edge of that tree with a utility knife a lot easier with the box flaps not taped down than having to go back and do it with scissors now. So learn from my mistakes. Do the cutting of the tree out first. I wanted there to be a pretty background, so I picked out some scrapbook paper I had that I thought coordinated well. I traced the bottom of the box onto the paper. I cut that out, and then I glued it with white school glue onto the bottom of the inside of the box. Now you can put the top back on the box and she's ready for decorating. The ones in the antique store that I saw were decorated all kinds of different ways with all kinds of different stuff. So it's just up to you what you want to put inside your diorama. I went with a couple of bottle brush trees and a little reindeer. That was very important. I wanted there to be a little vintage reindeer. And here's where we get to use another vintage printout. If you Google vintage deer printable, you'll come up with all kinds of little images that you can save to your computer or your phone and just print them out on your printer. And it's important to print them out on cardstock paper so that they're heavier and they'll stand up. The bottle brush trees I'm using came from Target because I am out of these little trees. I had so many of them last year and they're all gone now. I must have used them all. Anyhow, I couldn't find any more at the Dollar Tree. I couldn't find any more at Walmart. So here I have this Target kind and there's no snow on them. So I have to remedy that by putting some acrylic white paint on these trees to act as snow. But of course, if you're able to, you can find them with snow already on them. Next, I thought there should be something in the bottom of the box, kind of like grass, I don't know, some sort of a filler. So I grabbed this tinsel garland from the Dollar Tree because this silver reminded me a lot of the 50s and 60s tinsel trees. So I'm going to incorporate some of that silver into my diorama. And I just used hot glue to stick that piece of tinsel down to the bottom. Then I hot glued the trees to the tinsel, but then I also put a little dot of hot glue on the back of the box so that the tree would be touching, so it's glued in two places so it's not flopping over inside of the box. And the second tree I glued right to the back of the box. And for the little deer, I put little tiny dots of hot glue on the bottoms of his hooves and I attached him to the inside top part of the box. Then I felt like the top part was kind of plain and needed something, so I'm going to steal some more of the snowflakes off of this card holder garland thing, and I'm going to glue those to the top part, like over the trees. Now, if you had any snowflake stickers or something like that, even some wooden, if you had some glittery wooden snowflakes that you could paint, yes, that would be adorable. So here it is, all put together. It didn't really take much time, and I love it. For this one, I'm going to use some of these chalkboard tags that I've had from Dollar Tree for quite a while. They're not the hard chalkboard, but they are writable. But that doesn't matter because I'm going to cover them up with these milk caps. They are vintage milk cap graphics, and I also purchased these from Etsy. And I just loved how old-fashioned they look. But this forces me to have to cut around a circle, and that is a challenge for me. I want to get wavy. I want to get off the line. I want to cut too far inside. Ooh, don't cut too far outside. It's a problem. Unfortunately, the graphic was just a little small for the chalkboard tag, but I had a backup plan. I also had printed out this vintage Christmas scrapbook paper that matched the colors perfectly, and so I'm going to now trace out 6 of the ornament size tags onto the scrapbook paper, and that's going to be a background. And then stress over cutting 6 more circles. These vintage graphics are giving me some retro vibes. I'm not even from the 50s, but oh my goodness, how I love it. So anyway, now I'm going to attach these background pieces to the chalkboard tags using Mod Podge. Then apply Mod Podge to the milk cap graphic and stick it down. And before you know it, you have a whole set of these very vintage ornaments just to use wherever you like them to be. Did you happen to notice the jadeite dish that those ornaments were sitting in? Well, it's not real jadeite. I'm using some of these dishes from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to give them a jadeite makeover. Now, there's lots of people that have done this technique before, but the best tutorial I've seen is Farm Charm Chic. I'll link her video in the description box below. She used a pistachio color Krylon paint, which I was unable to find, so I'm hoping that this seafoam green will give me the same effect. You want to make sure that your glass pieces have as smooth finish as possible, so remove all stickers and remove all residue from the stickers, and the best product I find for that is Goo Gone from Dollar Tree. The temperature at my house today was in the 30s, so I had to set up an indoor spray paint booth using a giant chewy box that this little rascal's food comes in. And I don't think were happy about me using their box because they had been playing in it in the living room, but it's going to become my spray paint tint today. I'm going to give these dishes 2 light coats of this spray paint, and I'm only painting the outside of the bowl and the underside of the plate. I won't be spray painting the inside of the bowl or the top side of the plate at all. And here's how they both looked after their second coat of paint. And that's all I did. Honestly, maybe a third coat would be better, but I quit while I was ahead because I'm a very messy spray painter and I didn't want to risk messing it all up. And these dishes, of course, are not going to be for food purposes. They're only for decoration, but I think they go so cute with the vintage Christmas stuff. I found this tissue paper at the Burlington store for just a couple dollars, and it has a really nice vintage Santa Claus print on it. So I'm going to make a complimentary plate to go with the jadeite plate. First, find the piece of tissue paper that has the least amount of wrinkles, and that is where you're going to cut around your plate, and that's the piece that you'll use. Then flip it all over because you're going to be working on the back side of the plate. Now the idea is to decoupage this tissue onto the back side as wrinkle-free as possible, and I researched a lot of different techniques to do this. And so this time, instead of putting the decoupage right down on the plate, I'm going to put the tissue down first and then put the decoupage glue on top. And it will seep through the tissue paper and make the tissue paper stick to the plate. And this way you can press out any air bubbles and wrinkles with your bristle brush as you go along. Also, this is not any special decoupage glue that I'm using, it's just the gloss Mod Podge. You always want to start at the center and work your way out toward the edges. Before moving on, I dried that bottom part with the cold setting on my hairdryer. That's important, cold. You don't want to use hot with Mod Podge. And then I moved on to sticking down the sides. Now, the sides are a little bit different than the bottom because this plate is curved up. There's going to be a lot of wrinkles. I don't know how to avoid it. If anybody has any tips, I've tried all kinds of different ways, but always wind up with wrinkles. So I just use the regular technique on the side where I pretty much just glue it down. I put the Mod Podge on the glass, and then I stick the tissue down, and then I put Mod Podge on top of the tissue as well. Then I dried it all up really good and flipped it over to see what we got. I was right happy with that, and so now the final step is to get rid of the excess tissue paper, and that's really easily accomplished by using a wet foam brush and going around the edge, and then that tissue paper just peels right off. And this is what you have when you're done, a sweet vintage Santa Claus plate to go along with your Jadeite dishes. And this one is using a $4 8x10 picture frame that you can get at Walmart right now. It's such a bargain for $4 because I just love the design on the outside of this frame. And to go inside of it, we're going to use a vintage printable. If you Google vintage Santa Claus, you're going to come up with all kinds of images. You just pick your favorite one, cut it down to size, and stick it in the frame. Voila, you have some really cute vintage Christmas decorations. Now let's look back at all the vintage Christmas DIYs today. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you got inspired by these vintage Christmas ideas. Go online, look and see what printables you can find. There's lots and lots of stuff out there for you to DIY with. If you want to see some more DIY videos, click the link I've provided for you here, and I'll see you next time. Bye!